In Ethiopia, forces in the Tigray region have accused troops from neighboring Eritrea of starting a full-scale offensive. Heavy fighting was taking place in several areas along the border on Tuesday. 2 aid workers also reported shelling into a displaced persons camp. The U.S. Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa, Mike Hammer, said the United States was aware of Eritrean troops crossing into the Tigray region and condemned it. Eritrea had withdrawn its troops from most areas in Tigray last year after they supported the Ethiopian military in earlier phases of the conflict. Meanwhile, Ethiopia has rejected a report by UN human rights investigators. The report released on Monday accused Addis Ababa of possible ongoing crimes against humanity in the conflict region of Tigray. In its findings, the Commission of Human Rights experts say it found evidence of widespread violations by all sides since fighting erupted in Tigray nearly 2 years ago. Starvation and denying aid, food, medicine and basic services was used as a weapon of warfare against the people of Tigray. Ethiopia's permanent representative to the UN in Geneva, Zenebe Kebede, said the commission behind that report was politically motivated.
The report itself is self-contradictory and biased, which doesn't pay any attention to the atrocities committed in Afar and Amhara region, but solely focusing on Tigray. Therefore, we have no other option but to reject this report, as you have rejected the resolution that established it and the very establishment of this mechanism as well.
Earlier, I spoke with William Davison, a senior analyst on Ethiopia at the International Crisis Group, and I started by asking him how the latest offensive would impact the peace process.
I think it leaves the peace process in a lot of trouble. But clearly there had been a very significant drop in fighting between the federal military and the Tigray forces this year, some increase in humanitarian aid deliveries, but then a failure to agree on key components that were needed to start formal negotiations, and particularly that related to Tigray leadership's demands that the siege is lifted and services are restored to Tigray before any serious negotiations can begin. So it's in the context of that sort of failure and the complete lack of progress in addressing the underlying political disagreements that we saw a resumption of war on the 24th of August. And now, because war has resumed, we see the full return to the conflict picture of the Eritrean military. We are even further away from addressing those issues, particularly regarding service restoration, the unrestricted delivery of fuel, etc., which were impediments to gaining momentum in the peace process. We have seen plenty of diplomatic commitment from the US, the EU, the African Union to some extent. I think there has been a period when more could have been done between June and August, especially to address that issue of restoring services to Tigray that was so critical. What we've not really seen is anyone willing to use their leverage to try and apply any form of sort of coercive measures to try and influence a change in behavior, either from Tigray's government, the Eritrean government, or of course the federal government in Addis Ababa. So if you take that as a lack of commitment, then you could say it was insufficient, but we've certainly seen plenty of diplomatic activity to try and get the parties to stop fighting and resolve their disputes via negotiations rather than on the battlefield.